Well, thank you so much. Well, first and foremost, just want to introduce myself, Darren Chitsey. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Southern California Association of Governments. And thanks so much for attending this special interest group meeting today. I want to thank Esri for taking the opportunity to focus on this project today, as well as in this environment, continue forward the great work that they always do with this users conference and allow people to update and check in and see where things are at and not waste a year of gathering all the greatest updates about what's going on from Esri and sharing information throughout all of our spaces. So thank you for that. We have a great group here today. And shortly, I'm going to turn it over to a couple of our key staff that have been working on a really important project for SCAG. It's called the Regional Data Platform, and that's most of what we're going to talk about today. But before we get into that, I just want to give everybody certainly a little background. I know most of you certainly work with SCAG, and whether that you're one of our member jurisdictions or stakeholders that have engaged in our work. Our goal and our mission since our inception has really been able to try to find opportunities for our members to really do their work better. And certainly over the years, with the regional planning work that we do and the later creation of a metropolitan planning organization, that's always been our focus, is certainly to carry forward the important goals of regional planning, but make sure they get realized at the local level. And so as we started to rethink several years ago, and this goes back probably 5 years, which is always just a great lesson. When you want to do something new and innovative, you got to be patient and persistent with it. We started to really think about what does that future look like? What kind of tool, what kind of options can we really start to do to bridge that gap? And while infrastructure has always been the core of what we do, information is infrastructure and data is infrastructure, was really starting to change our thinking. And so when we started to think about how do we align our regional interests with our member services responsibilities, this idea of what is a regional data platform? How can we connect that by doing something no one's ever done and providing information at a more rapid speed, as well as just ability to share across multiple platforms. And I think where we are today, I'm sure most of you are in your homes. I'm in my bedroom. Maybe a couple of you might be in your offices, but this ability to kind of share and communicate in a new way when we're not going to be seeing each other as much is going to be so much more critical, not just in the short term, but as a long term, as we, at some point go back to life as we were used to it. So that's what today's about. We've been working on this project for several years. We're close to rolling out some very early prototypes about what it means. We always get asked that, what is the regional data platform? What does it mean for me? How can I use it? And while we're still early in building it and figuring out exactly what the future product might be, we've got some really exciting opportunities to kind of share with you, to give you a sense about the direction we're going, the types of tools that we expect to offer through this platform, and really showcase the early work that we've been able to do with Esri to get it on board. Because regional planning, as we know, is going to be more important. The environment that we're in today, our ability to plan better for the future, whether it be about sustainability or air quality or where housing is or public health issues. These issues are more relevant today than they ever have been. And we think this is one tool that SCAG can add to our ability to help, again, serve our membership as well as plan for a more prosperous and brighter future in Southern California. So with that, I'd just like to turn it over to Tom and Javier, who's our staff, that have been working diligently on this. It's been a fantastic team of employees at SCAG, as well as partners with Esri and some other outside consultants that have got us to this point. And I just really want to congratulate them for their persistence and vision and hard work over the last several years to get to where we are today, and know that there's even much more to come in the years ahead. So with that, Tom and Javier, thank you very much for the opportunity to say hello, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Darren,
Thank you.
for the welcome remarks and a high-level purpose of the meeting today, which is about the regional data platform. My name is Tom Vo. I'm a regional planner at SCAG in the planning strategy department. Most of my work involves with utilizing GIS to process, analyze, and generate value-added products related to environmental justice, air quality, transportation, and land use. So I'm really excited for this opportunity to work on this project. Before we start, I wanted to use this opportunity to thank the SCAG leadership for their guidance and support. Specifically, our Executive Director, Komi Chise, Chief Operating Officer, Darren Jesse, who just spoke, Planning Director, Sarah Jepson, Chief Information Officer, Julie Sawyer, and the RDP core team, Javier Aguilar, Shiwa Hu, Frank Wen, Jason Greenspan, Jonathan Hope, Hao Cheng, Guy Copes, and Wallace Warwood. Lastly, we also wanted to express our sincere thanks to the ESRI team, specifically Caitlin and Whit and other ESRI staff for their supportive and collaborative spirit. For today's agenda, Javier and I will provide an overview of the RDP. The ESRI team will provide information about the RDP resident engagement and planning prototypes. Then Hina and India from SCAG will provide information about other SCAG initiatives, which are the SoCal GreenPrint and the High Injury Network. Please also note that you can ask questions at any time during the presentation on the chat. ESRI staff and SCAG staff will be in the back end to answer your questions. There will also be a Q&A period at the end of the session for those who would like to speak. And so now I will turn over to my colleague, Javier Aguilar, to go over the RDP overview.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank you for this opportunity. My name is Javier Aguilar, and we're excited to announce that the first phase of the Regional Data Platform Initiative is underway. This project will standardize regional significant data sets, provide opportunities for local partners to update their data in real time, and draw insights for local trends, focusing specifically on the update of local general plans. Moving beyond just the technology, this platform will help government engage with data in a simpler way, allowing interpretation of information into actionable insights and knowledge, and provide a digital venue for local agencies to engage with their residents using data as a medium. Process-wise, we will enable users to provide the platform through data revisions and insight sharing, empower local partners to use the platform for their own initiatives, and ultimately foster continuous experimentation at the local level by helping jurisdictions understand how their plans could impact the region's most significant challenges, such as transportation, jobs, housing, sustainability. Next slide, please. Hello? Okay, thank you. Before I get to why it's important, I would like to give you a little more background of where we are today in the jurisdictions. Did you know that about 70% of local agencies lack staff to analyze data, and that 43% have no in-house GIS support? Even more challenging is that 84% share data through email or other means of direct communication, sometimes putting personal information at security risk. Public agencies are facing challenges, whether it's a lack of enterprise data sharing, lack of technical staff to perform data analysis, and the lack of data standardization across jurisdictions that would allow from building of reusable tools. And that's why SCAG has leaped into the gap to provide resources and guidance to local jurisdictions to advance the adoption of data and new technology in everyday business practices. In assessing the needs of the region and the role of SCAG should play in supporting local jurisdictions to become more efficient, innovative, and transparent, SCAG has convened a committee of experts, elected officials, and university partners. The objective was to review SCAG's current data initiative and tools within the context of big and open data, determine an appropriate role for SCAG in addressing the challenges and opportunities that big data, open data, and new technologies provide, and develop strategic recommendations for the agency that can add value and the adoption of innovative policies and programs across the region. Our regional data survey also shows the access and sharing of data is important to regional stakeholders, but organizations often lack resources to analyze and process data. We found that 3/4 of respondents reported that they want SCAG to take a major role in hosting regional significant data, and nearly 2/3 want SCAG to take a major role in promoting best practices and in data and analytics, as well as standardizing data sets. So again, why is it important? Most jurisdictions in the SCAG region have not updated their general plans since 2004. Today, newer general plans are more innovative and will help to implement Connect SoCal. We found that 95% of jurisdictions are undergoing an update and have included policies that encourage infill development. 50% increase strategies that address complete communities and concentrating destinations. 60% include policies that help facilitate transit-oriented development. And another 60% include strategies that address all of these focus areas. Next slide, please. Okay, so challenges. Local jurisdictions must complete and update a general plan for their communities, but many struggle to do so with available resources and in-house tools. Also, local jurisdictions need data, tools, resources, and best practices to update their general plan. Next slide, please. Other challenges at the regional level, SCAG needs reliable local data for accurate regional forecasting and planning. In addition, SCAG needs more integrated methods to support and provide resources for local planning efforts. Next, I will ask Tom to give us goals on the regional data platform. So thank you. Next slide, please. Thanks. Tom?
Thank you, Javier, for the overview of the RDP. I'm back again. So to bring everything back together, the general plan update process is costly and time-consuming. This is one of the factors of why most jurisdictions haven't updated their general plan since 2004, according to the survey. SCAG has realized the hardship and the needs to update general plan. This is how and why the RDP project was created in the first place. At the high level, the RDP seeks to facilitate better planning among SCAG and member agencies by providing modern tools and best practices to assist with general plan updates and streamline the process of collecting and integrating data from member agencies so SCAG can do a better regional planning. We also recognize that you are diverse in how you use GIS today. Importantly, the regional data platform will meet you where you are in terms of GIS and IT capabilities by providing tools and best practices to member agencies of all levels. With that being said, the RDP is a robust system of systems for regional data sharing and collaboration. It provides long-range planning tools to all member agencies, and it facilitates better planning at all levels. With that, I hope you're excited for today's demonstration, and I will pass the floor to Caitlin Smith from Esri. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. My name is Caitlin Smith, and I'm the project manager on the Esri side for the Regional Data Platform. While the Regional Data Platform is intended to support a multitude of initiatives in the future, the focus of these early stages is on supporting and truly reimagining the general plan update process that Tom and Javier just alluded to moments ago. So the Regional Data Platform will provide support throughout the entire general plan update journey, from the first steps of setting up a website for your initiative around the general plan to sharing out the final plan with your residents. So we understand that updating a general plan can be a lengthy and complicated process. Having worked as a planner myself for many years, I am very familiar with the many phases, tasks, and challenges that come along with this. So in developing the concept for the regional data platform, we mapped Esri's technology and capabilities to every step in each phase of a typical general plan update process to try to streamline many of the crucial workflows that you're responsible for. So for example, ArcGIS Urban and ArcGIS Hub, two tools that you're going to learn about more in just a moment, can be leveraged for collaborative development of land use plans. This brings planners and residents together to shape a community's future. Or you could leverage dashboards through the regional data platform to report on how your updated plans meet and align with SCAG's regional policy and performance indicators. Over the past several months, the SCAG and Esri team have been working diligently to prototype a few of these capabilities to give you a sense of what's to come in this project. So in this next portion of the presentation, we'd like to showcase a collection of long-range planning and resident engagement tool prototypes that we've configured to support key phases of the general plan update. To introduce these prototypes that you're about to see, I'd like to turn it over to Whit Mateau from Esri. He's leading the technology side of the Regional Data Platform project.
Thanks, Caitlin. Today, we're excited to show you a series of early prototypes that demonstrate how the team envisions the RDP supporting you in your general plan update process. In these demos, we'll focus on a subset of the general plan update process using the city of Fullerton as the example. We'll start by looking at this through the lens of a resident of your city or county. First, showing how they can learn more about the city through a web-based visual experience backed by data. Then we'll see how residents can get involved in multiple ways, first by envisioning the city's future. You can think of this as Act 1, which will be led by Maddie as the resident. We'll then transition to the view of a planner within the city of Fullerton. We'll start by looking at how planners can use web-based tools to do forecasting and analysis, and then look specifically at the land use planning experience. You can think of this as Act 2, and this will be led by Sylvia as the planner. And finally, we'll go back to Maddie, our resident of Fullerton, to see how she can continue to engage throughout the general plan update process, in this specific case, commenting on plans published by the planning team within Fullerton. So after the prototypes, we'll revisit the technology in play, as well as the overall solution concept and what this means for you as member agencies. Perhaps as a bit of a teaser, some of the technology you'll see today, many of you may have seen throughout the week of the user conference. It includes ArcGIS Hub, ArcGIS Urban, Business Analyst, Experience Builder, and Survey 123. So with that, let's get started. Over to you, Maddie.
Thanks, Whit. So my name is Maddie Haynes, and I'm the lead for the resident engagement portion of the Regional Data Platform project on the Esri side. As Caitlin just shared, and as you all know, the general plan update process is quite complex, and the set of configurable tools that the Regional Data Platform will provide seek to make the general plan update process easier for you to complete. One example of such a tool is this General Plan Update Initiative site. This prototype example is for the city of Fullerton, but I want to note that we envision these prototypes that I'm sharing today as being resources that are made available to member agencies through the Regional Data Platform that are easy to configure and provide a starting point for agencies of all sizes and GIS maturity. This site, built using ArcGIS Hub, provides a platform for resident engagement and a centralized location for member agencies to inform your residents about the general plan update process. For this prototype, the page starts by introducing what the general plan is and providing some context to residents about its importance for guiding the vision and the future of the city. It next introduces opportunities for residents to get involved, promoting engagement through sharing data and information directly with residents, such as through the local profile, or through two-way engagement, leveraging ArcGIS Hub's ability to create a collaborative environment for two-way communication between residents, city planners, and other stakeholders, such as through these events. Here on the page, we're using an element to share a timeline to inform residents of the phases of the general plan update process so that progress can be tracked and residents can understand completed or upcoming work phases. Next, we have an example of how you can introduce the individual general plan elements, including a brief description of the element to continue informing the resident of the content and coverage of the general plan. And finally, the page closes out by providing some contact information to continue promoting conversation and transparency between residents and the member agency. Today, I want to share an example of how each of the individual elements you can continue to inform and engage residents around that specific topic. For example, on this housing element page, for the prototype, we have followed a similar structure by first introducing the resident to what the element is, as well as providing some context of 3 of the main purposes of this element, such as providing guidance on policy or monitoring performance. We then include a brief section that introduces the Regional Housing Needs Assessment as the guiding document for the housing element, and provide a connection between the regional work that SCAG does back to the work that you as a member agency do at a local level. And now, through reviewing Fullerton's current housing element, we saw that the initial section focuses on analyzing the community's housing needs. So through integration of other data-driven products, such as this dashboard, Hub can be used as a mechanism to enable residents to explore related data and increase resident awareness, or to help validate established housing policies. And finally, you can introduce any policy actions which arise from the element, which in the case of Fullerton include housing production and affordability. I also have another example I'd like to show of land use. And included here, we show again how we similarly begin by introducing the element and providing some context to the resident. And then we show another example of how Hub can integrate with your data, maps, or other interactive experience, such as through this land use map for the city of Fullerton, where a resident could come in and see specific land use throughout the city and interact with the map to learn more. Now, as I briefly mentioned, while this prototype was built for the city of Fullerton, the tools developed through the regional data platform will be customizable from the content to the layout. So dependent on each member agency's needs and skill sets, you could use this page as is with some changes to branding, color, or for smaller agencies, and more advanced or larger agencies could go and customize further. Now, ArcGIS Hub and this general plan initiative site allow you to engage with your residents through a variety of ways. And one of those ways you can engage is by communicating information out, such as in the local profile. For example, as a resident of the city of Fullerton, I can come to the site to get to know my city better. Here, I could quickly learn about the local profile and its goals and purpose, as well as better understand the types of questions I could answer by using this resource, such as how is the population changing in my city? I can also learn about the different ways I can interact with this experience. First, through interactive categories that are based around the existing categories in the local profile, or through a full report. It's taking a second to load. I'm going to transition here. So if I were to click on one of these, or as you look at these geocards, which you may have seen in the plenary yesterday, which are powered by ArcGIS Experience Builder, as a resident, I can quickly see some high-level information about my city, such as the population or number of housing units, as well as immediately get some context as to how these numbers are changing, like the 7% increase in population over the last 9 years. Now, if I click on one of these cards, I'm brought to a category-specific page that launches the fully interactive experience where I can further explore the data. Here again, I can first learn more about the types of information and see some other key statistics, such as the projected population in 2024. As I continue down, I'm brought to the fully interactive experience. For example, here is an experience that's loading that's centered around age, where as a resident, I could come to see and explore the age distribution of my city. such as this decrease in population age 0 to 4 between 2000 and 2019, which may be interesting if I have young children. I could also interact with this data through the lens of generations, which I might be more able to identify with better, and understand which generation is most prevalent in my city, in this case, millennials, and easily click to explore more and see where in the city this population lives, in this case, the southeast corner. I could also explore similar experiences for other components of my city's population, such as race. Here, I can see the race and ethnicity of my city, and again, click to explore more. I can see how the race has changed over time and interact with the data. Or finally, explore a map to see what the predominant race is in various parts of my city. As I can continue down this page, I can also see how Hub provides an opportunity for me as a resident to connect directly with the data that is powering this experience. Clicking on one of these categories brings me to an open data-like experience where I have full access to the data. And finally, as a resident, I can also explore the full city report, which is more aligned with the traditional local profile report that SCAG has been producing. So I can download this or explore all the characteristics of my city without needing to go through the interactive experience. Now, in addition to learning about my city, which is more of a one-way communication for my jurisdiction, as a resident, I can also use this platform to engage in other ways. Here on this Get Involved page, I can quickly see all the opportunities that I have to be involved. For example, I can follow the initiative to get updates from city staff related to the general plan. And I can also help envision my city's future by communicating data back to the city that they can use to inform the planning process. Other opportunities to be involved include commenting on proposed plans that the city has put together or attending upcoming city events. Today, I'm interested in sharing my thoughts with the city to help influence change in the planning process. Going to this page, I can quickly see how early in the planning process, I can share some of my ideas and priorities with the city on areas that they are looking to get feedback on, and also learn how sharing my thoughts can help inform the work on the general plan update. As I continue through this guided experience, I'm now brought to a questionnaire that starts by asking questions about who I am and my connection to the city. I can come in, search the map, or enter my address specifically, and click the general area that I live, and it automatically populates the survey with the census block of where my residence is. And I would imagine that this information could be useful for city staff or planners to visualize later to understand who the survey respondents were and where they were located. After another few quick questions, such as how long I've lived in the city, or what elements of the general plan I'm interested in, I can continue on to the next set of survey questions. This next survey is centered around city projects and development, where I can come in and explore and voice what projects I'm most passionate about and explore to learn more about these projects individually. I zoom in, I can see that there's a project here in the design phase, several in the application phase, and even one in construction. And click and see the details about this project. And when I click again, it automatically populates the survey so I can tell the city why I'm passionate about this project. In this case, because I believe it aligns with my vision of the area. I can also let the city know what other types of development I'm interested in seeing. In this case, I also think this area could benefit from more affordable housing. And now this final survey experience shows parks and open space and also highlights some 3D data. I can pan around and zoom to see the parks and green space in my area and let the city know which park is my favorite and why, in this case, because of the picnic areas. Now the questions asked and the data that's in this experience are fully customizable. So if a member agency is seeking feedback around a particular issue or data set, could leverage this tool to collect structured feedback that planners could then incorporate into ArcGIS Urban as indicators or in other information products like dashboards. Now I'd like to hand it over to Sylvia Casas to introduce the tools that you as a planner can use.
Thanks, Maddie. Let me share my screen. All right. So, hi, my name is Sylvia Casas, and I am the Urban Planning Lead for the Regional Data Platform project. I'm going to switch things now from the resident involvement to the planner's job and show you two of our applications that can streamline your urban planning workflows. One would be Business Analyst, and the other one would be RGS Urban. To be realistic on the level of experience that a planner can have when using these applications, I'm going to share a secret with you. I've been with Esri 16 years, and I know our platform.
Hey, Sylvia, we're not seeing your screen. Sorry.
Not yet?
No, not yet.
Let me double check that. Wait. Is it sharing now?
Yes, it's coming.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks for letting me know, Caitlin. All right. So the secret I wanted to share with you is that I am an expert on RGS Urban, but I am a total newbie on Business Analyst. So you'll see how easy it is to actually get data from it and start using it. So let's get to it. So what you're seeing here right now is Business Analyst homepage. Business Analyst is a web application that helps users make smarter and more informed decisions when evaluating a site, when you're targeting an audience, or to better analyze the market. Here you have the main page, and you can see the projects that are down here. So projects are a way of organizing your data, your analysis, and reports, and enable you to share them with the public. In addition to the home, we have maps, and this is where you'll do most of your analysis and start bringing data. And then we also have reports, which are, you saw some of the reports that, or the infographics that Maddie showed in Hub that were actually coming directly from some data produced and reports produced here in Business Analyst. The other thing that Business Analyst has done, and I think it's very useful in a fun way to get familiarized with the application, is these guided tours. So you can actually open them up and go task by task or activity and start learning the application. And as you do this, you get points and earn badges when you complete one of these activities. So let's get into creating some maps and some reports. So first of all, I'm going to define an area, and I'm going to do it by a geographic unit. So I'm going to search Fullerton. And of course, there is more than one Fullerton, so I'm going to pick the one in California and click next. So now my area has been defined, and I have several things that I can do in this area. So let's create some infographics. This is retrieving information that it's already on Business Analyst and pulling this one pager where you can see a lot of the variables or things that are happening in the city, and also see its geographic location. So let's dig a little bit into the median household income. I can actually open up and see the distribution of income and percentages and the comparison to the county information. This template is fully customizable. You can change the colors, your icons, the information that goes in it, and you can also share it, export it and share it with the rest of the city or your organization. In addition to finding where we're going to be doing some work, I can also create some maps. And let's start with a color-coded map. So another great thing about Business Analyst is that it provides a lot of data and information. There are several categories that have been added to Business Analyst, and there are about 1,500 variables that you can pull from these categories that we have here. But this doesn't mean that you cannot use data that you have already created. So anything that SCAG shares for the region can also be added into these maps for whatever purposes you want to tackle or use them for. So I'm going to actually use income here. And I'm going to pick some data that Esri has created for the 2020 average household income. Once I retrieve it, I can see over in my card here that one is showing the 2020 data, but I can easily switch to a projection for 2025. So this is a fast way to switch between years of data. Another great thing is that you can switch between geographic units for your analysis. So I could go up and aggregate data to a zip code, and you'll see larger areas, and the incomes get also aggregated in them. Or I can go back to the granularity of a block group, which is what I want to do. You can also change the style of your map. So maybe I don't want to see the boundaries colorized, but I want to see color and sizes. So now in a second, you'll see that each income has been represented as a dot. And I can also control my max and means and see where they fall in the histogram of the entire data. So in addition to this, I can also see the information by block group and the actually average household income that applies to each one of them. The last thing would be that this data can be exported to an Excel file if you want to use it for any other purposes. And I can also share it as a separate map that I can consume later on in ArcGIS Urban. So here I have several options. We can publish to story maps or PDFs, but what I want to do is send it over to a web map so I can later on consume it. So I'm going to skip this step because I've actually done it already. And now I'm going to switch to ArcGIS Urban. So this is ArcGIS Urban, and it's also a web application, 3D based, that we use for orchestrate your planning workflows. Here, again, we have Fullerton. Fullerton is a city of around 135,000 people, and they've been thinking of doing a general plan update and also work on some specific plans that they have in the city. I'll go over some of the main elements of urban. We have projects, which I won't talk too much about, but this is just a pipeline of development inside of the city. And you can see each project by its status. So this one is under construction. Some of them have already been approved, and you can go in and investigate a little bit more about them. I'm gonna switch to indicators. And now, well, indicators are reference data that can drive your decisions while you're doing designing your plans and your scenarios. I want to bring in the data that I just created in Business Analyst. So I'm going to create a new indicator, and then I'm going to call it Fullerton income, just for fast typing here. And then I already have it here. I'm going to click OK. And in a second, you'll see that the information I pull from Business Analyst, I see it in Urban right away. So this would be something specific that I did for Fullerton. Prior to setting up Urban, we also added another custom indicator to understand how much people were spending on housing based on their income. So I can open any of these bars and it'll tell me the information about that block group. In this case, we can see that 71% is spending more than 30% of their income on rent, and then 24% is spending more than 30% of their income in their mortgages. So this might give us an idea of where we want to do some work in our plans later on. I'm going to show you one more indicator. This one was provided by SCAG, and you can see that in a second, all of the priority growth areas that have been already been defined by SCAG have been brought into the application. So we can see where we should be doing some development and redevelopment. I'm going to zoom in again into Fullerton, and I can see that most of this area over here, it's under my priority and growth. So I'm going to switch from indicators now to plans. We have two different kind of plans, and actually, I'm going to refresh here. second, because we have land use plans and we also have zoning plans. So land use plans will help you do some general plan updates and start creating scenarios that you can start testing what you actually want to input into the general plan. Let me go back to my plans over here. And I can also mention here that some of the 3D data that you're seeing has been provided by Fullerton, but it's not necessary for you to do your planning workflows. So if you have your zoning and your parcels, you can bring them in and start doing work. And as you create that 3D content, it can also be brought in and your application may look very similar to what Fullerton has here. So I'm going to open up the land use plan. And I can see that there's a card that has been created with some scenarios, but now I'm going to go into editing this plan. And I mentioned that plans can have scenarios. So these are the different alternatives of designs that you can start working on. While this loads and open up. So the first thing that you see here is the business as usual, or the existing condition of that land use. And this one came from the general plan update made in 2012. So I'm going to switch my scenario to one where I'm going to be doing some changes. If I look at the area, and I'm actually going to zoom here, which is a rail district, I can see that this area is predominantly industrial. And I may want to do some changes if I want to go back to that housing focus that the new general plan wants to have. So first, I am going to show you the land use that has been already added. So industrial is the one that's predominantly here. I can see that some space uses have been assigned to the industrial land use. I can, if I want to see more information, I can open the land use type and then see what's been added here. So I can see here that allowed uses are mostly industrial. If you were to put more information under land use, you can add it in this section over here. So let's change now this industrial site or area into a rail district that I have already prepared. So we have added a paint tool, which is a very common way of assigning or designating land use when we're trying to do these kind of updates. I've added the rail district already in my list of land uses. So now all I need to do is paint over this area. And in a second, you'll see that I have changed from an industrial land use to the rail district one that I had prepared. So now that I have assigned a new land use, I'm going to do some building allocation to start seeing some capacity metrics generated by it. So I can switch to development, and I'm going to select just some parcels in this block. And to do some fast allocation, I can just start selecting some building types. Since the focus is housing, I'm going to pick a low-rise residential with retail. I'm also going to pick the Main Street retail with residential. And let's put some offices here too. I haven't assigned percentages, but by clicking here, I can auto balance it to 33% for each one of them. Once I click assign, you'll see that some buildings get generated here. And let's actually zoom in, and you'll see that this is the new development that's been added there. And I can see some really fast metrics that have been produced by this new redevelopment that I've done in the area. The last thing I want to show you may not apply to you or some of the cities under the region, because we may be doing a lot of infill development. But if you were doing greenfield or brownfield development, you could select larger areas or larger parcels and do some general land use, generalized land use designation here. So I'm going to switch to my parcels here, and I'm going to select this one. And I'm actually going to use a new tool that we have for assigning a grid into that area. So I can actually select and or assign a smaller grid size. And I am not going to apply it because I am not doing this kind of development here, but I just wanted to show you that there is a way to have a more general way of designating land use in larger areas. So now that I've shown you land use, I'm actually going to switch from the general plan to a more zoning oriented plan. And I can see that on my list of cards, there were a couple of zoning plans already assigned. So let's go to the rail district specific plan. I'm going to open it up and edit it too. And as I did with my land use, I'm going to switch the scenario in a second. For this one, we actually have created several scenarios which have different build out options for them. So going to open up this scenario 1 build out. And we've already done some changes in the zoning here. So if I want to do a little bit more investigation of what's been done, I can click on my zoning in a second. And then I can see these are all of the zoning districts that have been created for this area. I can open them up as I did with the land use, and these ones do have a little bit more detail on them. So I have a coverage assigned, and I have also a maximum height and dwelling units per acre. And then there are some different space uses that have been assigned to this zoning district. So what I want to do with this is actually compare the future land use that was set for the 2012 general plan with the zoning and see if there are any conflicts between the two of them. So for that, I'm going to actually turn on my warning labels, and I'm going to select my Fullerton land use, and I want to look at future land use. So once I click OK over here, in a second, you should see the zoning districts that are in conflict with land use. If I click on any one of them, it'll tell me why the conflict is occurring. So in this case, there are a lot of industrial space uses that are not allowed in this area. So if I were to use one of the scenarios or change my general plan to one of the proposals that I did on my plan, maybe I could resolve these kind of conflicts. One more thing that I want to show you is the type of capacity metrics that are generated by this build out. So before we had very little information, but now here I have the amount of population or people that are being added with this kind of development in the city. I had a target of 5,000 and I am halfway there. So we might need a little bit more housing in the area. Jobs are still low as I want to have a focus on housing. And then there are other capacity metrics that have been added in this new release of Urban. So all of these ones are customizable. You can actually go inside of the space use and see where that information came from. So in this case, for affordable housing, the capacity metrics or the factors and coefficients that have been added in the application are very particular, but you can change them as you need or depending on what kind of development you want to do in the city and how your coefficients look like. So now that I've shown you a plan, I'm going to go back to our overview mode. And I want people to be able to start commenting on these plans that we have created. So what I'm going to do is open up a commenting period for this plan. And all I need to do is go to my the configuration of the plan and set feedback and enable it. So right now I'm going to give it a commenting cycle until like mid-August for people to come in and the residents to say what they think about the plan. So with this, I'm going to switch it over to Maddie so she can do some commenting on this plan area.
Thank you, Sylvia. Let me share my screen once again. Great. So now that city planners have published a plan, I as a resident have another opportunity to get involved. Coming back to this Get Involved page, I can now see how the commenting that Sylvia has enabled as a planner allows me as a resident to share my feedback on these plans with the city. If I were to click on this link, as a resident, I see a very similar experience to what the planner was seeing. This provides, though, me the opportunity to actually interact with the plans and, again, easily let the planners know what I like about the plans or what I think still needs improvement. I come back in here, I can see that rail district specific plan that Sylvia just enabled comments on and open that up. In this experience, I can view the existing conditions of this area, as well as explore the different scenarios that are proposed. This one Sylvia was just showing, and also see the actual metrics of various conditions or characteristics rather, like population, jobs, and households to understand how this plan may impact my city. You can also provide comments and feedback directly on the plan by just dragging this bubble to a general area and letting them know that, for example, I'm excited to have retail in this area. Another way that I can provide feedback if I don't have any specific comments is by looking at other feedback that other residents have made. And I can vote up, let planners know that I agree with this comment, or if I disagree, vote down. So this information that's provided through this experience by the residents can be used by planners to revise their plans as needed. So this concludes the demo portion of the session, and now I'm going to hand it back over to Whit to continue discussing the Regional Data Platform project.
Thanks, Maddie and Sylvia. So hopefully this gives everybody a sense for what's possible and where the Regional Data Platform is going with regards to capabilities and experience, as well as how the Regional Data Platform may support you in your general plan update process. Before moving on to the solution concept, we wanted to revisit a few key points. So earlier, you may remember Caitlin showed a more detailed, expanded version of this sort of 4-phase general plan update process. What Maddie and Sylvia showed is really just a piece of this, primarily within the 2nd and 3rd phase. We also appreciate that the general plan update process is very iterative, and there's a strong push to involve and engage residents throughout the process. Today, we showed 2 examples of how residents can get more involved in the process, but we anticipate there being more. For example, the platform could even be used to enable residents to contribute data directly, in effect, crowdsourcing data, which may be especially helpful to fill gaps in data for things like sidewalk completion. We also know that priorities within the general plan update process will evolve and change over time. For example, most recently, there's been a lot of focus on themes like housing and racial equity. The platform will be flexible with respect to the process, so not rigid, and should be able to accommodate these evolving processes and priorities over time. And lastly, we'd just like to reiterate that these are early prototypes. We'll see the project schedule in just a few moments, but in short, we're still early in the process, and we're excited to work with a number of you in shaping how the regional data platform comes to life. So with that, let's take a quick look at the solution concept and what this means for you as member agencies. So at a high level, the regional data platform includes both planning tools as well as resident engagement tools. These tools are powered by SCAG's geospatial infrastructure, which is in turn built on Esri's ArcGIS technology. But we'd like to go a little deeper and explore what this will look like for you as member agencies. So here we have SCAG's geospatial infrastructure and member agencies. To reiterate a bit of what Tom noted at the start of the meeting, we know that your member agencies are very different and diverse. And a key tenet of the regional data platform is to meet you where you are. Our aim for the regional data platform is to provide value to you regardless of whether you're a smaller city with no GIS experience and limited technical resources, or a large city with its own enterprise GIS. So to expand on the solution concept a bit, the first part to note are the planning tools. So these planning tools are largely web-based. We saw a number of them in the prototypes today, and they'll include ArcGIS Urban, Business Analyst, web tools and applications like dashboards, as well as ArcGIS Pro supported with data. These are largely web-based, with the exception of Pro, which is a professional GIS desktop tool. And so these will be provided through SCAG's geospatial infrastructure and to you as member agencies with a single license that will allow you to use these tools, regardless of whether you are simply using desktop and almost exclusively web-based access to tools, or you have your existing GIS infrastructure as ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise and want to use some of the existing data that you already have within your GIS systems to support the planning process. In addition to the planning tools, the SCAG geospatial infrastructure will also power the resident engagement tools, which includes Hub, story maps, experience builder, dashboards, survey 123, a collection of fit for purpose applications and experiences that will be integrated into Hub through a general plan update site and initiative, much like what Maddie showed in the prototype. And so your residents will be able to access, for example, the City of Fullerton general plan update site with these resident engagement tools powered by the same SCAG geospatial infrastructure that's also supporting the planning tools, which allows this very seamless integration between the planners, tools, and experiences and the resident. But we acknowledge that there are some of you that have already established very robust geospatial infrastructure and may already have licenses to some of these tools like Urban and Business Analyst. And we would like to meet you where you are as well. So in this particular case, residents may hit your geospatial infrastructure directly. We're looking at ways to get some of the configurations and templates and some of the value that's being built into SCAG's geospatial infrastructure as templates that you can then realize on your end, and in fact leverage sort of the application benefits of what's going into the regional data platform. But in addition, a big part of sort of the plumbing of the regional data platform is really data. And that is not only the regional data platform making data available to you as member agencies to support your planning process, but also providing a seamless way for data that you manage and or create as part of the planning process to be shared with SCAG. And this will leverage a lot of the advancements in Esri's technology around data sharing and collaboration, not only within users of a system, but even across systems. And what benefit this really provides is it allows SCAG to do regional analysis using more complete and more current data, which in effect provides better regional data that can be shared back out through the regional data platform to support your local planning process. So in effect, better local planning with data orchestration supports better regional planning, in effect providing data back to you as member agencies to continue planning, and can think of it as a bit of a cycle. So this is the high level solution concept, again, powered by SCAG geospatial infrastructure, but intended to support all of you, regardless of where you are in your journey with regards to GIS and IT. So with that, I think Caitlin will, maybe you could take us through the regional data platform schedule.
Sure. Thanks, Whit. So to give you all a sense of where we are and where we're going, let's take a quick look at the schedule. So we kicked off this project earlier this year in the spring, and since then we've been working closely with SCAG staff to define requirements for the regional data platform. We want to understand connections to regional workflows. We want to understand how SCAG best supports you as member agencies. So we've been meeting with them on a regular basis. And in the fall, we'd like to begin reaching out to a subset of member agencies that represent a good cross-section of the region as a whole to understand and document common workflows and challenges in the planning process. And what we glean from those meetings and our discussion with SCAG that's ongoing will be important to inform the development of long-range planning tools that will be delivered as part of the Regional Data Platform project. So the prototypes you just saw dropping down to that purple bar of tool development represent some of the initial development work. These prototypes really serve as a launch pad for further engagement with you and will be used in these outreach meetings to seed conversations and ideas as we gather requirements for the next phase of development. So after outreach and a period of foundational tool development using what we learned from the outreach, we will again engage with member agencies, this time a subset of 5 member agencies from the 10 that we interviewed, to collaboratively test and provide feedback during a series of development sprints. So we will be piloting the system with these 5 member agencies prior to rollout to the rest of the region. And a year from now, at the next user conference, we aim to have a pilot system operational to share with you. So we'll conclude this project looking into later in 2021 by providing some training on the system to the pilot member agencies and working with SCAG closely to train them to enable the system to grow and scale over time. And we end to wrap up this project in the first half of 2022. So you may be wondering at this point, what's next? At least for me as a member agency, how can I stay informed? How can I be engaged? So we're excited to announce that a private website for the Regional Data Platform is in development. The site will be rolled out probably in the next 2 to 4 weeks and will be a central location for information and updates on the Regional Data Platform project, where you can engage with SCAG and one another around this specific initiative. So we'll have videos of the prototypes you saw today that will be loaded there, along with ongoing updates as the project evolves. So if you RSVP to today's meeting, you'll receive an email invitation to this site, and SCAG will be working to identify any member agencies that weren't able to attend this meeting so that they can have access as well. So now we're going to shift gears a bit and transition to India and Hina from SCAG, who are going to show you a sampling of other exciting initiatives underway at SCAG. And I think it's important to note that the next 2 initiatives, which are the SoCal GreenPrint and the High Injury Network, are amplified by this regional data platform. It's all part of a bigger picture, so I hope you'll see that today. Take it away, India.
All right, thank you. So my name is India Brookover, and I'm a planner in SCAG's Sustainability Department. And I'm here today to talk about this SoCal GreenPrint, which SCAG is developing in collaboration with the Nature Conservancy. Next slide, please. So what is a GreenPrint? In sum, it is a strategic conservation tool and website to help users make better land use and transportation infrastructure decisions and support conservation investments, but based on the best available scientific data. Next slide, please. So why do we need a regional GreenPrint? The impetus for the GreenPrint came from SCAG's Natural and Farmlands Conservation Working Group and has been included in the draft 2020 Connect SoCal plan as a strategy for meeting natural and farmlands conservation goals. The overall need for this is driven by the need to balance regional growth with conservation challenges such as drought, climate change, and habitat loss, accommodate infrastructure development while protecting important natural resources, to address the lack of consistent regional data and tools that can be used across sectors to assess land use decisions transparently and objectively. Better prioritize lands for mitigation that have regional conservation benefits, and provide a valuable resource to our member agencies and stakeholders to make more informed land use transportation planning decisions. So what will it look like? GreenPrints can exist in many forms, from static maps to comprehensive documents. The SCAG GreenPrint, as mentioned before, will be freely available, a freely available web-based interactive map tool that will require no special experience or training to use. The picture on the left is from the homepage of the Bay Area GreenPrint site, which was the inspiration for the SoCal GreenPrint. We haven't decided all of the data yet, but they will be organized into themes as shown on the right. This image is just to show what the themes could be, but the final ones will be determined through stakeholder outreach into what's most important in the SCAG region. The Nature Conservancy, along with their sub-consultant, Green Info Network, were selected because of their extensive experience developing greenprints and engaging stakeholders across private, public, and nonprofit sectors. Next slide, please. We're focusing on several key users, but the GreenPrint will be freely available to anyone who wants to use it. And those key users are our member agencies, such as town, city, and county planning departments, but also infrastructure agencies, conservation practitioners, community-based organizations, and developers. Next slide. So how can the GreenPrint be used or implemented? The main use of the GreenPrint is to support better land use planning and decision making. There are limitless ways to use the GreenPrint, but this slide shows some examples of how it can be used. And on SCAG's end, we will be using the GreenPrint to help inform decisions for a regional advanced mitigation program. And as part of their agreement, the Nature Conservancy will create a white paper advising SCAG on implementing a regional advanced mitigation program, which is envisioned by the draft Connect SoCal as establishing and/or supplementing regional conservation and mitigation banks to address impacts for projects and support reduction of per capita vehicle miles traveled. And so here's our timeline. Next slide, please. So this is our timeline, and it starts in, we started in January of 2020, and we plan to complete the project by 2022. And right now, we are in the strategic outreach stage, and we are looking to identify agencies to conduct rapid assessments. So if you click one more time, there'll be a pink square that'll show where we're at. Thank you. And we'll be developing case studies. And we're also in the middle of determining what the themes of the data will be, as I showed in the previous slide. And then we will be launching the tool. And so it should come a little bit before the regional data platform, but the next slide shows how the GreenPrint will be integrated with the regional data platform. The GreenPrint uses open source platform, but through an API, it'll be fully integrated with the regional data platform. And so that is the presentation. Thank you so much for having me, and please feel free to contact me if you have any more questions. And we will be providing updates on the progress of the GreenPrint throughout the next couple of years. Thank you. And now we have Hina Chanchlani, who's going to be talking about the Regional High Injury Network.
Thank you, India. That was a wonderful presentation. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Hina Chanchalani, and I am a regional planner at SCAG with the Transportation Planning and Programming Department. I'll be walking you through SCAG's Regional High Injury Network today. I also want to mention that this is my favorite project because it has the first three letters of my name, HIN, which you will be hearing throughout the presentation today. Next slide, please. So let's begin with the definition of a high injury network, or HIN. HIN can be defined as stretches of roadways where highest concentrations of collisions occur on the transportation network. HIN documents where corridors within a transportation network carry a higher risk of injury than the other corridors within the network. And still to be clear, HIN is intended to show where fatal and serious injury locations are occurring in the region, and it's not an assessment of whether a street or a location is dangerous. HIN is a subset of street network where more than 50% of the collisions are occurring. Next slide, please. So SCAG developed HIN to inspire local efforts to develop their own HINs. Developing an HIN can be helpful for a variety of reasons. One of the most important reasons to identify HIN is that it allows to focus on the most challenging areas by determining the exact locations of the streets where crashes are concentrated. The HIN also helps in strengthening collaboration to focus street improvements and education campaigns like Go Human campaign along the HIN. And finally, it is also helpful in prioritizing investments. Lastly, HIN will also help the region more effectively to work towards reducing serious injuries and fatalities in the region. Next slide, please. So before developing an HIN for SCAG, we looked at various jurisdictions which had already developed HINs. The case studies we looked at were City of Los Angeles, City of San Francisco, Portland Bureau of Transportation, and lastly, Oregon Metro. So San Francisco was the first one to develop a high injury network in the entire country. Next slide, please. So when developing a HIN, there were obviously a few challenges that we faced at a regional level. City versus regional HIN is complicated, mainly because of the scale in terms of geography and populations. SCAG is the most diverse region, and different counties in SCAG region will have their different challenges, and so the solutions for every county cannot be generalized. For example, urban roads would have more exposure than the rural roads in SCAG region, so we need to make sure that we account for all the challenges in the entire region. Next slide. Next up was data needs or considerations for data. Some of the questions that we had after looking at the case studies were as follows on this slide. For example, how many years of data should be included? Should we analyze collisions or collisions resulting in injury, or only collisions resulting in serious injuries or deaths? Should we analyze all modes of travel? Or only the most negatively impacted compared to the mode share? Should collisions be analyzed at the intersection level or the corridor level? Should we address collision locations involving children or just seniors? Should we address collisions in communities of concern, and some other considerations as well? Next slide, please. So after looking at all these case studies, SCAG had several goals for developing an HIN, which included as below. One of the goals was to be sensitive to different county contexts. As we discussed, that SCAG is a diverse region. We wanted the HIN to be replicable so that it can be used over time to track changes. We wanted it to be quantifiable so that the assessments could be made objectively. We also wanted HIN to focus on crashes resulting in fatalities and serious injuries. And we wanted to consider all modes of travel, but also provide an option for reviewing only auto bike, and auto pedestrian collisions, or HIN. We also wanted to identify corridors and not just hotspots. And we wanted to include segments that were normalized by length, which is look at collisions per mile. And so for SCAG's HIN, we also considered adding additional weights for bike and ped collisions, along with seniors and children collisions, and also considered the disadvantaged communities and communities of concern. Next slide, please. And so as we discussed that usually it's more than 50% of the collisions which makes the HIN. After the HIN analysis, a threshold is usually established to identify a manageable scale. Typically, jurisdictions would want to identify a subset of 50% collisions, and these are the thresholds established by the jurisdictions which we study. Next slide, please. So finally, how can HIN be used by jurisdictions in the SCAG region? HIN can be used by stakeholders to identify geographic areas where crashes are concentrated, first and foremost. Stakeholders can then identify causes of those crashes and then apply countermeasures to reduce fatalities and serious injuries. It can also be used to prioritize investments within these regions and areas. And then lastly, it can be used to strengthen collaboration efforts with education campaigns like Go Union. Next slide, please. And then in terms of the next steps or where we are headed, SCAG looked at various interactive HINs throughout the country and is planning to develop an interactive version of HIN probably by winter 2020. We're working with ESRI currently to develop an online interactive tool for stakeholders. And at the minimum, that tool would reflect serious injuries and fatalities and some layers for bike and ped collisions, fatalities, and serious injuries. We are also considering to add layers for communities of concern to highlight inequities in the region. And then we are also considering to return to the stakeholders to seek input on the first interactive version at the SCAG level. Thank you so much for hanging in there, and I'll now turn it over to Caitlin Smith to wrap up the session.
Wonderful, thank you, Hina. So in conclusion, you're part of something really big. So the exciting initiatives that you saw today are all part of a bigger picture, a picture of a region, your region, our region. The SCAG region is home to some 2,000 ESRI employees and our families as well. A picture of a region that's leading the way through the use of next generation technology, through robust data and analytics, through collaboration and partnership to address serious challenges. You're leading the nation in creating massive transformation in planning and in regional governments. And in the process, everything you saw today is really shifting the paradigm for what it means to be connected and to be a sustainable council of governments. So on behalf of ESRI, we're excited to be on this journey with you, and we thank you for your ongoing partnership. So at this time, I think we have time for some questions, some Q&A. So if you'd like to take yourself off mute and ask questions about anything you saw today, we'll do our best to answer your questions now.
Hello, I had a question.
Sure, could you introduce yourself and where you're from?
Yeah, I guess I could, well, I won't show my video. I'm Christopher Martyr. I'm with the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority here in San Bernardino County, just a stone's throw right from you guys at ESRI. And I had just a couple of questions. One was technical in nature, referring to that high-level overview diagram that you showed earlier, and then kind of one more, I guess it's more high-level as well, regarding kind of just the data structuring in general. Yes, so that one. So under the planning tools, I see the use single license provided by SCAG. So under this model, is that to imply that SCAG will be providing the licenses for folks to use Pro and all the other tools that you outlined, but then it's still prerogative under each member agency to supply their own, do the actual install and the maintenance of the tools on the local location, so as setting up their own actual computer workspace or virtualizing Pro and all that other stuff. So that was my one question with that. And then the other one in relation to that double arrow between the regional data analysis and the member agencies, folks hear about standardization of data. I don't think, at least I can speak for myself, there's nothing I would disagree about that, but I know that the standardization process can definitely be lengthy in of itself. It requires a lot of input from community members and member jurisdictions, and because we want to make sure that we're capturing everything that needs to be and we're not necessarily excluding something. So I'm just curious what SCAG's initial thoughts were about setting up that process in order to do that kind of standardization. Do they see kind of a select subcommittee in order to do data gathering, and will they meet monthly? And I just kind of wanted to get their initial impressions on what that process looked like as far as that regional, actual data sharing part, and the setting up of those schema structures when it came to that.
Hi, this is Tom. I guess I can try to answer that question that you asked about the data sharing, standardization between regional and local. We every 4 years we do the local input process, and we have been doing that for the past 10 years or so. So this is a really big process where we collect a lot of information from local jurisdictions, like the comprehensive land use, general plan land use, existing land use, zoning, or protected open space, database, and so on. So we have been doing this for a while now, and so we know exactly what goes into it in terms of data standardization. And just to give you an example, so for land use information, the existing land use information, these are a very important data set, not only for local to look at what's currently on the ground, but it's also important for the region to know exactly what's going on, not just in one local jurisdiction, but imagine for the whole region, 197 local jurisdictions. So with that information is really good. And in terms of standardizing it, we have developed an automatic or a process to standardize it, where we collect local land use information and translate that to the SCAG standardized land use code. So for those who are on the call and have been through this local input process, you know what I'm talking about, those 4-digit codes that we asked you, and you probably met with me and other SCAG members before. So these are some of the data sets that we are thinking to collect, but if you even actually go beyond that, like imagine, local jurisdiction, they change their land use, their zoning information, or their business license, and what have you. And this information could be very important to the regional planning agency, because this will help SCAG to understand the development pattern and what's going on at the local jurisdiction level, so we can utilize that information to better plan for for the future whenever we have to update the general plan, the long range plan, the RTP, SES, Connect SoCal. So I hope that kind of answer your question in terms of data standardization. But of course, as Caitlin mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking with local jurisdictions, and we're going to be going through this piloting process where we will sit down with local jurisdiction and to understand what and determine what really the regional significant data set that that can be selected for the standardization. Because obviously you can't standardize everything, but there has to be certain layers that we can prioritize to standardize, and that can both benefit, the local jurisdiction, your city, and also the regional.
Thanks, Tom. And maybe with regards to, I think it was Chris's first question, with regards to the planning tools. So the tools here like Urban and Business Analyst and Pro, as part of the regional data platform, there will be a license provided for those tools for the member agencies to use if they don't already have one. And with regards to the idea of deployment, for the most part, these planning tools are web-based. Urban, Business Analyst, in fact, all of the tools that Maddie and Sylvia showed today, which are sort of the basis for the regional data platform, are web-based. The one exception is Pro, and so that would be, I think, incumbent on the member agencies to install Pro, but that should be the only piece of software that you'll need to install and run locally with your environments to work with the regional data platform. And in fact, most of it is web-based.
I have a question. My name is Jose Mendevel, Culver City Planning Division, current Planning Division. I noticed that when you were doing those scenarios, both the general plan and the zoning, for specifically zoning, would we be able to, for example, calculate a build out on a commercial corridor from X Street to Y Street with already our own development standards already in the program? So for example, if we have a 35 dwelling unit per acre maximum and some percentage ground floor commercial, we would be able to come up with different scenarios? Or is that something where we're gonna have to input our own development standards to make sure that the build out is correctly calculated?
Yeah, so you can, all of these things are customizable in Urban. So once you have added your zoning with your specific parameters, you can also start creating very specific space uses with coefficients that you've already calculated for your city, and then assign them to the buildings that will go there. So then you can start generating those metrics, and you can do as many scenarios as you want with different alternatives. So yeah, you can do that.
But we'll have to input that data first. Like we'll have to do that as part of our.
To a certain degree, there is we out of the box we have a good amount of building types and space uses that already have default factors and coefficients in them. So if they are in alignment with your city, you wouldn't have to add them. You just use the ones that we are providing. But if there are some very specific ones, then you would have to develop those.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If anyone in the chat who is answering a question needs further clarity.
Yes, this is Ted Cronin from City of Riverside, GIS manager. So when you theoretically load the data, is it just one single data model that our data would then just get appended to, or are you looking at multiple planning schemas to exist outside on the platform?
Who should answer that? I'm thinking on the urban side, there is a schema that you have to load. And basically what you need are your parcels, your zoning, and your land use. Once you have that loaded, you would be okay. And then we've been talking with Tom and the team to actually do that generalization of the data as well. So there will be a separate schema that I think we can talk more about it once we start orchestrating all the data. But that's on the urban side.
So do you guys have an empty truncated schema that you could share for how you guys are having? I'm saying this because we're in the process of just moving off of Workstation ArcInfo to ArcMap. And so we're still working, we're actually off of Workstation, but we're making final tweaks on our planning data. And so it would be sensible that if we are going to look to even, whether we're on the RDP or we implement our own urban solution, does it make sense for us to be able to implement some of the schema that you guys are using as part of urban in our current design right when we're in the beginning of moving forward with Pro and everything else?
Okay, so actually when you get your urban instance, there is a way to download templates for all your zoning type and your land use. It's basically the same schema and it comes in an Excel spreadsheet. So you could use that as your starting point for modifying your data model in your organization. So that is possible. Parcels don't require any specific schema. They get loaded, and once you start doing work, it start getting populated. So, but everything else that it's more specific. So it would be zoning type, land use types, overlays if you actually maintain those in the city as well. All of those have downloadable templates in Excel that you can use for data modeling.
Does the does Urban support the Parcel Fabric service or the Parcel Fabric schema in general, or does it have to be converted out to like a smaller form factor for the parcels?
So we are not integrated with Parcel Fabric currently. You don't need to do anything or either minimize or do something to your parcel schema. You'll have an option for mapping some fields, but the ones that are not part of our schema just won't go in. So these are conversations that we've been having internally at Esri. So there might be something coming for integrating with Parcel Fabric in the future.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
All right. Well, I saw many of you in the chat were asking about if this presentation could be made available. I think the answer is yes. We'll coordinate with SCAG on getting it to you as participants in today's meeting. And then you'll also, as I mentioned in the presentation, be getting an invitation sent to you shortly with the link to the website for the regional data platform, so you can stay tuned for updates on that project and see the videos of the prototypes that we showed today.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks for your enthusiasm, Ted. And great questions, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.